Hey guys, Garrett Brown, and today I'm going to be showing you how to replace a damaged or bad strut on your car. Let's get into it. As for tools you may need, you're definitely going to need either an impact or at least a breaker bar at the minimum. So having an impact is going to help you quicken up the process a lot. Now having some impact sockets, some regular sockets, a couple extensions, 3/8 ratchet, some wrenches, some cutting pliers, a good beefy old hammer, and possibly an adjustable wrench as well. And of course, don't forget to wear some safety glasses. You don't want to get any rust in your eye. It could be very annoying. And of course, some form of prying tool. And of course, a floor jack and a jack stand. And of course, you don't always need this, but having an adjustable seat will greatly help you out, especially if you're working on the floor. The first thing we're actually going to want to do is pop the hood. That way we can get access to the top bolts on the strut. As you can see, there's 3 different circles here. We'll pop these out and we'll have access. Now we'll just go ahead and pry up. There you go. That's 1 right there. That's 2. Again, you could just get a flathead or a pick. And there you go. Now, I actually have a lift, so it's pretty easy for me. But what you're going to do is get yourself a jack. And you're going to jack it at this point right here or on the solid frame. And then put a jack stand underneath. And to make this more relatable to you, I'm not going to lift this all the way up. I'm going to lift it enough so I can just have a seat right here. I'm going to use this stool. And we'll go ahead and impact this crap out. All right, grab your impact. This one's going to be a 22 millimeter. So we'll get the lug nuts off. That's 1. That's 2. 3. 4 and 5. Now, if you have one of these magnetic strips, you could just put the lug nuts on here so you don't lose them or you don't kick them underneath the car or something. Really nice and handy to have. And don't worry, I'll link this magnetic tool and or this magnetic strip on the video description down below. All right, so now that we have the lug nuts out, as you can see, this thing does not want to come loose. So what we're going to do is grab one of those lug nuts. You're going to thread it back on. And then what you can do is get a dead blow hammer and just hit the back of it. Or, as long as your car's very well supported, grab your legs like this and kick really hard. There you go. Whew. Broke loose, my back hurts. Damn. All right. Put that over there. And now grab that. Now, once you have the wheel off, what you could actually do is put it on the ground. And if you have this on jack stands, just shove it underneath the car so you have an extra layer of protection just in case something happens, you know? All right, so now what we're going to do is give ourselves a little bit more light. So what I like to do is use a headlamp. I'll link this down below. It's a nice streamlined light headlight. Pretty good. But for your guys' sake, I'm going to use one of these bad boys. This is also a headset, but I'm going to use it to show you guys what I'm doing right here. And there we go. So now we have light and we'll get these bolts loose. Now, the reason why we're replacing this strut is, as you can see, it's bent from an accident that this car was in. We're gonna go ahead and put a new strut, put a new fender, restore this car, and it's gonna go back to normal, back to driving on the street. But we gotta do these small repairs, so we'll get the strut out. Now guys, keep in mind, you don't need the beefiest impact. Any impact will really do. If you have a Milwaukee, awesome. If you have something like a CC or something else, non-name brand or cheaper or less powerful, that's perfectly fine. Now, if you can't break the bolts loose because you don't have a strong enough gun, you could always just grab yourself a breaker bar. If you need more leverage, put a pipe over it and break it loose. Now, just work with what you got. This is all what it's about. Just work with what you got. If you can't afford it right now, upgrade later, you know? So right now I have the M18. If you have the CC right now, these are pretty decent. You know, if you could upgrade later, go ahead and get the Milwaukee, or even go ahead and get yourself a DeWalt, whatever it may be. Just work with what you got, and you'll be fine. Trust me, I've done all these repairs with the bare minimum. All right, so now that we're here, the first thing we're actually going to disconnect is not the bolts to the strut, but the sway bar link. We're actually going to disconnect the sway bar link because this is usually what gives us the most trouble. As you can see right here, there's a little bit where you could put a hex or something in it. However, most of the time when you try that, especially in the rust belt, that thing's going to strip out. So let's deal with this first. What we're going to do is actually get a jack. I'm going to slide it underneath the car, like so. Make sure your car's still properly supported. Now all I'm going to do is jack the car up onto the control arm part right here. And now we're going to jack it up just ever so slightly, just so we have enough tension on that strut. And there we go. We jacked it up just enough so we can have tension. So now we're going to go ahead and impact that out. It's going to come off a lot easier than normal. Now sometimes you might get lucky. There might be a hex bit or something here. We're not that lucky. Most of the time you won't get that lucky. So again, we'll just zip it off. As you can see, it came off perfectly fine. If it doesn't slide out easy, just get your pry bar, put a little tiny bit of tension. As you can see, that already wants to come out. So now I can just literally push it out and boom, there we go. Now with the sway bar link out, we're going to turn the wheel all the way to the left. Now we have two options. Either we can get back into the car, turn the wheel all the way to the left, or we could just disconnect the tie rod end. Depends on what you want to do. Now, with that being said, if you are going to disconnect the tie rod, you're going to have to get some needle nose pliers or some cutting pliers. Now we're just going to bend this back like this. There you go. And there you go. Now, if it's really rusty, you might have to wire brush it or hammer it on. All right, now just impact it out. Boom. Now, if you remove that nut on the outer tie rod and it's not coming off, which most of the time this is what's going to happen, what you're going to want to do, just get your hammer and you're going to hit it right here on this little circle dimple thing right here. Now, give it some beans. It's not aluminum, so you don't have to worry. And there we go. Oh. It's out. Ugh, I'm tired. Took a couple of hits. It's hot today. All right, so now that you disconnected the outer tie rod, all we're going to do is turn the wheel as much as we can. Now we have good access to these bolts and nuts right here. And now with the wheel turned, we'll go ahead and disconnect the brake line. And guys, keep in mind, this is a very general way of replacing your strut on every car. It might be different. It might be a different size. It might be a different setup. Might be a different bolting system. So just keep in mind, this is a very general strut replacement. It's gonna vary from car to car, but on most car setups, it's just McPherson's strut setup. So it's gonna be pretty similar. And now with the wheel turn, we'll go ahead and disconnect that brake line. And look how much more space we have to work with instead of it just being all in the wheel wells. So now that we have more space, this is a nut and a bolt setup on this strut. So what we're gonna actually do is loosen the nut side first. This whole thing's gonna spin, and then we can put a wrench or a brake bar on this end. But what you always wanna do first is impact this side loose first, and then go ahead and break this. Now, sometimes these are splined, so this might not move, but on this setup, I know it's not like that. So a lot of times you actually might want to get penetrating oil. Now, if you don't have any penetrating oil, you can get by with things like ATF or even brake fluid. It's better than nothing. Now, in this scenario, I really don't need any of that. I just know how cars are in the rust belt over here, and this is not going to snap or break. I just know how it is. So we'll go ahead and just break this loose. So again, we're going to impact the nut side first. This actually spun loose. Now, if we're lucky, this is actually going to spin loose too. All right, so now let's go ahead and try the bottom. And the same thing here. Now, in this case, I got really lucky that both came out, but in your case, you might have to hold a breaker bar or wrench on this side while you impact this side out. Now, once you have both released, you're going to realize this is not coming out easy. It's under a lot of tension. Why it's under a lot of tension? Just because this is holding this. Now, you could always try tapping it out like this or whatever it is. But what you could also do is just gently jack this up ever so slightly. Now with the suspension raised, you could either tap it out, pry it out, or even impact it out. There you go. Boom. And you're going to want to keep your jack lifted up like this so the axle doesn't extend too much out. And there you go. So now you just wiggle this loose. Or you could disconnect your axle, make sure it's lined up, put a bungee cord to something, and make sure this doesn't pop out either. Either way, normally I don't disconnect the axle. Most of the time I just leave it connected, jack it up, and I won't have a popped out axle. But again, you could always do this if you don't feel comfortable doing that. Now with everything released here on the bottom, we can go to the top and disconnect the last free bolt, and we should be good to go. All right, so now all that's left are these last free bolts. So what we're actually going to do is get an extension and a 14 millimeter, and we're gonna feed it all the way to here. As you can see, we could reach that, but as soon as we break it loose, that freaking nut's gonna go flying into the rest of the engine bay. So here's a cool trick that we're actually gonna do to prevent that. All we're gonna do is get our socket, we're gonna put tape over our socket, and then we'll make it wrap like this. There you go. And now we're going to tap that onto the nut. All right, so let's go ahead and feed that through. Like so. Tap that on. All right, so now we can go ahead and break it loose. There we go. All right, and now as you can see, that's not going to fall into the engine bay because the tape is holding it in. Now keep in mind, guys, sometimes the bolts to the top of your struts are going to be hidden like this underneath this little cover, or sometimes you might not even have a cutout for it. Sometimes you might have to remove this entire thing just to access it. Just find where the strut tower is, the top of it, and then you're going to see boom, there's the free bolts. Usually it's 3 to 4 bolts, you're good. So in this case, again, it was here. On your car, it might be different. Just keep that in mind. All right, so this is the last bolt. So all you're gonna do is maybe hold this with one hand as you impact the other, or just, you know, brace this with something, bungee, whatever it is. Just brace this so this doesn't come tumbling and hitting your axle. So, and there we go. We got the bent axle out, and we can get the new one in. Now essentially it's going to be all the same steps, just in reverse. What you're going to want to do is get the new strut, take it, lift it, put it all up into here, and then you're going to want to put these bolts in first. So you could go ahead and have somebody, a buddy from the top, go ahead and install those nuts while you hold the strut, or you could just one-hand it and go ahead and do it yourself. So go ahead and install that strut first at the top, just a little bit loose, don't tighten it down. And then what you're going to want to do is get your floor jack, bring all the way over here, lift this hub up all the way till it's equal with the strut, and then you could go ahead and bolt it back together. Now typically I'd show you how to install this myself, however I'm still waiting on new parts to come in. I gotta get a new control arm for this to come in, as well as a new outer tie rod. So I'm waiting on parts, so I can't necessarily do this, but I hope all these tips and tricks helped you out. Keep in mind, guys, a lot of things aren't going to go according to plan. This is why I teach you these tips and tricks and hacks, so you can go ahead and try to tackle them as best as you can, because a lot of these complicated things happen, whether you're working on a rusty car or not. A lot of this can happen. This is why I love showing you guys different ways to go about the same problem. Anyway, I really hope this helped you out. I'll catch you guys next time. Hope it helped.